Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry needs to be less pressured. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. We often hear about the sky-high commissions, the glamorous penthouses, and the thrill of closing a deal, but rarely do we hear about the emotional toll, the stress, and the sacrifices behind the scenes. This is a career that runs 24/7, where your phone never stops buzzing, your calendar is always full, and the pressure to succeed can feel relentless oftentimes. Today, we are stepping away from the highlight reel to talk about what really keeps agents going, the mental health strategies, the boundaries, the routines, and sometimes the very human struggles that no one sees. If you've ever wondered what it takes to survive and even thrive in Manhattan real estate market, this episode is for you. We're going to get candid about stress, burnout, ambition, and personal cost of professional success. And joining me today on set is Matthew Melinger from Brown Harris Stevens and Daniel Boatman from Compass. They join me now to discuss this, but first let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the globe and all around the United States. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Preparation is what turns a complex move into a seamless one. At Roadway, white glove moving isn't defined by speed, it's defined by control. Every successful move follows what we call the Roadway method: structured pre-planning, building coordination, insurance, compliance, and clear accountability handled before move day begins. Supported by a national fleet, integrated storage, and VIP level protocols, Roadway is built to manage complex high-value moves. Roadway Moving and Storage, trusted by agents to protect the client experience.
Hey everybody, we are back. So we're going to talk today about a very important subject: mental health awareness in our industry of real estate here in New York. Now, I don't mean that to sound awful, but we have a very stressful job, and I'm going to talk to these guys who are two very successful agents in our town here in New York about what it takes for us to kind of understand what it takes to get through a day, a week, a year, whatever, in this very intense, highly competitive industry, very emotional industry. So, Matthew, let me start with you. You know, we call this a 24/7 industry, okay? And as I said in the intro, our phones are always buzzing. You know, our calendars are always full. We always have something going on. We'll run out here to the studio to meet our clients, whatever, in a few minutes. But how would you describe the emotional reality of what we call a job in real estate or a profession in real estate?
I mean, I think to sum it up in one word, and sort of coincidentally, it's sort of against everything you just said, because we're constantly surrounded by people and, you know, networking events, you're with clients, you're trying to keep your calendars full. It's a really isolating business. I think, you know, despite the fact that we are connectors and we manage relationships for a living, the business can be very lonely. And I think that's where a lot of the stress and sort of mental health struggles tend to start in this business, because you have to really manage constantly being everywhere at once and everything to everyone at once, but at the end of the day, you're by yourself.
Elaborate a little bit on that, because I 100% agree with you, and when I'm teaching, I say the same thing. But we are in the greatest people business in the world, in the greatest people place in the world, New York City. So when one hears that it can be very isolating or we can feel very alone, what does that really mean?
I mean,
because we are around people all day long, right? So we're not alone.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, obviously, if you're on a team, it's a much different dynamic. Right. But, you know, we
yes
are...
and no.
Well, true. But we are literal independent contractors. We are independent. I function as a standalone entity under the brand of Brown Harris Stevens.
Correct.
You know, I'm constantly between New York City and the Hamptons. I eat alone. I drive alone. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm very thankful to have a supportive family and a wife to come home to. But, you know, for the most part, I'm very much alone in my thoughts and how I process things and how I drive a transaction. There's nobody else sort of coaching you through it. And coming from a former career where it was a little more, we'll call it camaraderie, because I was working on a trading desk.
Right.
You know, you were in the trenches with your team. And I went from that world to essentially being a one-man band with 84 different jobs. And you constantly have to teach yourself how to switch gears quickly, learn from your mistakes. You are your own mentor. You know, if you don't walk away from a transaction having learned something, you're doing it wrong. But at the end of the day, it really is a very lonely business sometimes. And it's hard to sort of process that because you're constantly surrounded by people vying for your attention. You have commitments you need to adhere to. You have deadlines, but you're moving through it solo.
Daniel, your thoughts on that too? 24/7 business. We're always running from point A to point B. Phones are buzzing. It's almost like, and I agree exactly what Matt said, but it's almost like we're never really not busy. There's always something going on.
Yeah, it is very lonely, and you always have to be on. There is no day off. There's not even a moment off.
No.
You don't have time for your own emotions because in what people always confuse about the difference between residential real estate and commercial is that in commercial real estate, it's all about numbers. In residential real estate, it's a lot of emotions and also numbers. And it's guiding people through emotions that they don't even understand themselves. So when we're always helping different people and dealing with people at different time zones, you don't necessarily, there is no moment off. Like I went through a whole month where I was doing multiple deals with people that were in Asia. So my hours were 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. for 4 weeks in a row, basically 7 days a week in educating them and guiding them through it. And during the day, it was still dealing with everybody else that was here. So the concept of then having time for our own emotions is exhausting, which then comes into having that loving family. But do they understand? And if they don't, then how does that work for us? Because like my friends would describe me as super high functioning ADD with a bit of manic depressive without being depressed, and then potentially on the spectrum. So all of those traits make you really phenomenally good at real estate. But also in that regard,
I never heard one describe themselves just that way.
so but
I love it. Go ahead.
But it's like,
sorry.
I don't even understand, do I have time to appreciate, am I depressed or am I not? Because that moment where I'm not solving something for somebody else at a high level, and you always are trying to figure that next step off or next step, because there's always somebody that's nipping at your heels. There's always somebody that's in your group. There's always something else. Like I was at a party for a sunset party on Sunday night, and it's like a big group of friends of mine. And for certain reasons, I haven't been out with them for 4 or 5 months. And this is like everybody was there at one time. So I really needed to be on, but it was a lot of social engagement and everything. And then I realized like I just didn't want to do it. And then I realized there's another real estate agent that was newer also in the group. I'm like,
Oh, you can't let that happen.
Shit.
Yeah.
So now I had to really get into the group and not shrink in order to preserve myself.
Yeah.
So self-preservation couldn't happen.
That's what I find sometimes when you have to be on for a certain reason, a group party, a dinner, whatever it is. And sometimes you just want to kind of retreat inward because of what we do and experience every day, all day. And you really can't. You got to flip that switch up and say, okay, you're on. Do the best you can, and then go home and, do whatever. Matt, let me ask you, because I guess there are moments when we realize that managing our own mental health is as important as managing our clients. So do you agree with that? And if so, how do you do that?
I think I 100% agree with it. And doing this over 10 years, I think it's a constant evolution where you're learning how to sort of manage your own emotions in addition to the emotions of your clients as they move through what can be a very arduous and complex process.
Yeah.
I think I sort of liken managing my own mental health to air brakes. So like Daniel said, like we can never really turn off. I might be on vacation, but I'm still available, right? The last time that I actually put an out of office on was 3 years ago on my honeymoon, and clients would get the out of office and then call me.
I don't think I've ever put an out of office.
Right,
on.
exactly.
How do you even put an out of office?
You don't. I mean, the business never turns off. So what I like to do, and part of the reason why I'm always early everywhere when I have to be somewhere, is that I sort of release pressure in small increments. So I get to every appointment or engagement 5 to 10 minutes early, and I can just, just collect myself, collect my thoughts. But I also am a huge supporter of maintaining a schedule. And some people think my schedule is a little crazy. because of how early I get up in the morning. But those 2 hours in the morning between 4:30 and 6:30 a.m. when it's completely silent, unless I have clients in Asia, and I get to go to the gym and just sort of zone out for even 60 minutes, that mentally resets me for the day. So I will never, ever have a full day off where there's 24 hours of complete peace and quiet. But it's those little moments that I build in every single day that allow me to sort of just keep my head above water and stay sane.
Daniel, what about you? Was there a moment when you realized that you needed to start managing your own mental health like you would manage your clients? And we all know managing clients is not an easy task. They're very needy. They can be 24/7, and depending on where they are, it could be late into the night, early mornings, whatever. But when you sit back and you realize, okay, so I figured out how to manage my clients pretty much. How now do I need to manage myself? Do I need to manage myself from a mental health perspective?
Always need to manage ourselves. We're under a great deal of pressure all the time, because if you say one thing wrong, an entire 2 years of work of not doing a deal, even if we're like, I just lost one client to another agent, and it was because I was being very transparent on, this is what the actual market value of your home is. This is what it actually is. I can support it. Like, well, what about these comps? What about this? What about this? Like, if you need to use the sale of this to buy something else or to do something else, I'm going to be very real with you on pricing. If you want to try for a different price, I'm happy to try for that and see what happens. He ended up listing 2 other properties with another agent, because he said, well, you were always trying to negotiate us down in price versus listening to him. So any little fumble in language can make you lose relationships. And in our world, that could be an entire, say, year of income. That could be all kinds of things. That's a referral source. That's everything. So there's a lot of pressure on each word that you use, unfortunately, but that's what makes us really good as we've been in the career for a long time. So the first time that I kind of had some weird emotional breakdown was 2017. And it was because the team I was on, the team leader at that time, I joined a team to learn how to run a team after I had built 2 other teams that had failed and business partnerships. I was like, all right, let me watch somebody. And the way that he treated all of this other stuff, because it ended up being the biggest deal that he had ever done after he had been in business for 20 years. And he was freaking out. I ended up internalizing all the stress because we don't have the ability to display stress.
Right.
So we internalize everything, and it ultimately gave me shingles. So I had shingles really bad for like a week.
A stress condition.
Yeah. And at that point, it was 2017. So I'm like 34. So it's like, that's a 90-year-old disease. So the learning how to start to manage that level of stress, and unfortunately now due to other things, I've done it to myself 2 other times. So I know that as a person, I will internalize the stress. And I don't like pharmaceuticals. I don't like doing anything. So I've learned a few other things that help, but I've been off of meditating. I haven't had time to do this. So I need to go back into a lot of the emotional regulation in different ways. But I'm finding that. And I have a few substances that I've learned that really help with depression and PTSD that actually help your body. And I've learned that a lot of CEOs actually die from heart attacks in their 60s. So when you think that there are all of these people that really hold their stress and they have nobody to communicate it with. So that's where I started doing a lot more research with PTSD and stress and anxiety and holding it in and finding ways to allow my body to release.
Do you think you would feel better, and this is just, a one-off question, do you think you would feel better? I worked in corporate America, you did, trading or whatever. If we were in a more structured job, 9 to 5, looking at the computer all day long, answering phone calls, doing whatever, answering to a boss, then going home and like from 5 or 6 o'clock at night and on, including weekends, you're off and you don't have to do anything. Do you think you as a person would feel better from a mental health perspective or not? I mean,
I've thought about it. I think about quitting my job every day.
Yeah.
And I do
because
very well.
I felt better back in those days than I have the past 24 years, just in general.
Yeah. Like as an individual agent, I'll sell $100 million a year.
Yeah.
And that's without having strong support staff, whereas others that do it have a lot of support staff. The concept of that I think about it, like, let me quit my job. Let me go try and get a job at Google and just dabble with what the interview process is. If I can make X amount of money there, I'd probably work at night and start a side hustle and see what other company I could build, because I think that'd be funny. But I don't know. I've never had to do something that was so stupid that I was like, well, I have to put together this PowerPoint. I've got to do this. Or 6 months into the year, all of our clients, be it Goldman or any law firm or any financial institution, anything, 6 months into the year, all the partners start saying, well, our company's not doing so well this year, so temper your expectations for your bonus. And then they have to wait for bonus season. I've never thought about bonus season. If I want a 10% raise, I work a little bit harder. I do a little bit more business. I figure out another way to get into different circles. So
because it's all about us.
It's all about us. And we are only limited in this job due to our own creativity and our own self-growth. And how do we contribute to different self-growth? So when you think about that, if you're not figuring out those other strategies consistently, then you get stagnant. And then it's kind of a downward spiral. Whereas right now, as we continue to grow, it's also not healthy to keep chasing the deals and keep chasing the rat race and trying to figure out what then is the stability that we want and need and what do we want in life moving forward versus the addiction of deal chasing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we all know that unless we do something, we don't get paid. We don't get benefits. We don't get salary. We don't get bonuses, whatever. We have to work, and we have to work hard and constantly be out there finding new leads, finding new deals, etc., working our referral base. That's how we work. That's how we get paid. So when we want to talk about stress, when we want to talk about emotional stress, this is where it comes from. You know, we have to pay bills every day, every month, every week, just like everybody else does. So if you are in a slow period, a down period, I get why people get all, verklempt. I mean, I completely and totally understand that. But we have to also learn how, and we'll talk about it after the break, we have to learn how to manage ourselves better, I think. And you guys are doing a great job so far explaining where we are in our mental health as we negotiate this job of ours. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about that and a lot of other good stuff. We'll be right back after these messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
Okay, we are back. Matt, let me ask you, so how has your definition of success changed since you started in this industry after realizing how difficult of an industry it can be on our mental health? How has your definition of success changed? We all want to do banging business. We all want to do the most business we can. But there becomes a time, I believe, where we realize,
I mean, I think it really comes down to finding that balance. And through the balance, you can find some time to sort of pull back for a second and sort of appreciate how far you've come. Like, for example, last year, not my worst year, definitely not my best year. I did go through a period of probably 4 months where I was, as they say, like down bad, like
Same.
to the point where it was affecting my relationships. And at one point, I remember I was at a work dinner and a colleague pulled me aside and was like, "Is everything okay?" And that was sort of like the wake-up call that I realized you need to do something because it's probably bleeding into your professional relationships and your relationships with your clients and you didn't even realize it.
Correct.
So once that happened and I sort of came up with a plan to sort of get in front of everything and sort of push forward rather than just sort of wallow and wait for something great to happen that would take me out of this slump. That sort of feeling that I was able to sort of overcome and push past it. And now I'm in probably one of what might be one of the best years of my career, which, this time last year I was in a very different place. That to me defines success. It's being able to sort of overcome challenges, not just sort of be in it and then just sort of wait for a solution. It's being proactive in figuring out how am I going to get past this? How am I going to manage this? And what am I going to learn from this? And then how am I going to take this into the next chapter?
Yeah, Daniel, I agree with what he just said. But when we look at the first day we were in the business, the industry, eyes wide open, we can make a lot of money. Everybody out there thinks, oh, real estate agents, can kill it and do really, really well. As Matt indicated, last year may not have been his best year. It certainly wasn't my best year either. It weighs on us, and it weighs on our mental health. It weighs on our outlook. It weighs on our personal relationships. It weighs on our client relationships. We get more frustrated, I believe, maybe, than we need to be. When you look back to when you started and where you are today, how do you define, or how has your definition of success really changed? I wanted to kill it. I wanted to run over everybody in the very beginning, and competition was competition, but I wanted to be the best that there is. 24 years later, I kind of get what it really means. Not that I'm perfect at it, but I'm not as, crazy about being the winner all the time as I once wanted to be, because I understand what it takes to do that. Little by little, you can still win. You can have a bad year. You can have a very good year. It kind of all works out. How do you look at that? From the very first day to where you are today?
I haven't really changed. Unfortunately, I'm still grinding every single day.
Okay.
I've never had financial security. I've never had emotional security. I've taken a lot of risks in different things at different phases of the career, and times where all of a sudden I ended up with $50 million worth of listings. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm stepping into the next price point. So it would look like it's all this success, but then I end up financially negative after taxes at the end of the year. And then I had to dig myself out, and then I'm digging myself out. And then we had COVID. And then it's like, there was never any bit of security in any way. And I don't have a couch to go back on. I don't have anywhere that I could go. And I've never had that in my entire life. So when you realize I'm my family's retirement plan, I cover anything else for all of them in case something happens. It's a different level of, I've just never been able to feel that chill. And part of me in the driving factor is always, I need to keep getting better. I need to keep having my life grow and change. And if nothing in my life grows and changes, it's not about, oh, I sold more. If I sell the same amount for 2 years in a row, I hate it personally, and that I didn't get better. But it's because nothing in my picture of my life, nothing changed. I didn't accumulate either investment properties. I wasn't able to do social media marketing. I wasn't able to do these other things. And I don't have this whole umbrella going on that actually would have helped my picture move. So as long as that changes, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Matt, so how do you handle the emotional roller coaster of deals that seem certain one day and then fall apart the next day? I mean, that really is what we are all about. And to Daniel's point, you really never know.
Yeah.
From an emotional perspective, where you're going to land with that.
I think anyone who is a decent, ethical human being will ever get used to that roller coaster.
We were talking about something before the show.
It's just something that it's a part of the business that you can't ever overcome it. You can't ever get used to it, but you just have to be comfortable with it. The fact that, and I tell everybody, it's either the best day of your life or the worst week on record. There is no in the middle. Yeah. There is no such thing as a normal day in this business. I mean, I can wake up ready to just grab the bull by the horns, and by 8:30 in the morning, I'm defeated, right? And then there's also those days where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done? And you find yourself at the end of the day with a martini in your hand and like, you know what? I did it. Right, I got everything
martini.
done.
That's got my name all over it.
I think there's a.
We need to do that one of these days.
I know.
By the way.
We should definitely have a martini themed episode.
Absolutely.
Are we allowed to drink in the studio?
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, I think you never really can get used to that. I mean, there have been, this time last year, I had one of the biggest deals of my career just blow up spectacularly. Yeah. Was I inconsolable? No, but I definitely spent more time than I should have in bed for 2 days. Just because, we're dealing with, as we've mentioned previously, it's emotions, and you have your own personal emotions. You have professional expectations of you. We need to portray an image and a brand So where I feel like a lot of real estate agents have this very shiny veneer, especially on social media, I take a little more of a raw, honest approach. My clients see when I'm not having a good day, and I tell them, like, don't test me today. This is not the day to try anything new with me. Okay, we're just going to get through this.
Yeah.
I need X, Y, and Z. Do not talk back. Do not ask questions. You know, bank robbery rules. Do as they say. No one gets hurt.
But you're very real, though. It's like, it's kind of like, you know, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And I think, though, that sometimes when you are in this business, you know, I have family members and friends. Oh, my boss is driving me crazy today. Oh, I can't do blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you know what? You get paid every 2 weeks. Right. Whether you're doing something right, doing something wrong, you're getting paid every 2 weeks, okay? And you're getting your health benefits paid for.
Oh, yeah.
We, when something doesn't work well, we don't get paid because the deal falls apart or whatever. So, you know.
Or you get fired from them, too.
Right.
And you get fired from them on a regular basis, or you fire them because they're not cooperating either. It works both ways. But, you know, I find that being who I am or being real, it's like, hey, you either take me or not. And I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. But, you know, I got to protect myself. I have to protect my mental, you know, health as well. And it is what it is. I mean, this is a very, very tough industry. I thought when I was working, selling technology, you know, in my past, oh my God, people drove me crazy. It is nothing like what we do here. Really kind of like, you know, naked out on the street every day saying, hey, you know, look at me. I'm going to help you do all your real estate, you know, deals or whatever.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And I think it's important that, you know, the whole premise of us talking about this is not for people to sympathize with us.
No,
we're not looking for
all.
sympathy. This is sort of just to
Absolutely not.
help everybody understand what actually happens behind the scenes. And for our clients, the fact that we essentially shield them from probably 95%
Correct.
of the absolute absurd nonsense that goes on behind the scenes of a transaction. They never even catch a lick of it unless we want to, you know, share and dish over drinks after everything is done. But this is really just to sort of help understand what we go through on a daily basis, 7 days a week, pretty much all hours of the day while we're awake.
Yeah.
I was talking to a client, you know, last night on the phone, and one of the things she said to me, and it really made me feel good, is like, Vince, you know, you don't only listen, you listen. Meaning everything I wanted, we went out one day, we saw 8 or 9 apartments, 3 bedrooms, which, you know, there aren't a lot of, and we bought one at the end of the day. And because you listen, you pay attention, you hear what they want. When you're in the business long enough, you kind of get it. But there are too many people in our industry who just really don't pay attention, get fired or whatever, because they're not listening. It's all about the transaction. And this show knows, I talk about it all the time, the difference between a relationship agent and a transactional agent. And the ones on the transactional side only never succeed. Yeah. Daniel, go ahead.
I just want to add, I think one thing that, building on all of this, that we have to have is an uncompromising self-belief. And it's not necessarily confidence, it's self-belief.
Yeah.
Because what is interesting in our business, and just New York City in general, I don't know if it's necessarily the same in anywhere else, but New York City specifically, because you're on your feet, you have access to people in anywhere versus being in a car, driving places, getting out, and you don't have as much visual access to people as we do in New York City. So in this city, we get to live every day like we're a puppy. Every single day, every single moment is a new moment. You don't have time to wallow in different things. You really have, in that self-belief, it's believing I can do anything that is going to happen and I can make whatever, I can make everything possible. And as long as you can have that self-belief, the concept of, oh, I got this one client, they finally made an offer on something after 2 years. Well, they just withdrew from that offer. Now the agent's pissed because he let go of something else, so he's taking it out on me. Then they told me that they were going to make an offer on something else, but then they've ghosted me for the last 2 weeks. So how do we deal with that? And you just have to have that unrelenting self-belief to know that you will be able to overcome everything and to keep it going. And that as soon as we leave this, I might meet somebody else next door who's like, hey, what's that building? Can I just go buy an apartment? Because it's possible. It's very real.
You know, as Matt and I were talking about before the show, it's not always about when things don't go well. It's not because we didn't do something right. It's because other people. And, you know, as I said for years and years in my life, people will be people. It is what it is. They may work with us. We may do successful transactions, or something goes wrong, and we want to immediately blame ourselves, but it really is not ourselves. It's the other side. Let's talk about expectations, though, whether they're from clients, brokers, social media, wherever. What expectations out of all those things create the most pressure for you?
I think really it's
because we get it from all angles.
I think the biggest expectation that really sort of keeps a very volatile business model somewhat level is to always stay positive. I know it's at times it is extremely difficult to do. And, we as an industry tend to have sort of a negative reputation for a litany of reasons. But I think one of the biggest struggles is, you need to promote positivity. People that know me know I'm not always the most positive person. If someone says, "How are you?" I say, "How long do you have?" That kind of thing. But
yeah, but like I said, I called you before real. You're real.
Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Right. But it's funny when I see and when clients write testimonials and they just love how overwhelmingly positive I am. And then, like my wife or my parents will laugh at it because they're just like, is not the same person. So I think the expectation that you sort of have to sometimes put on the front, be positive, be that sort of solid foundation for a client who's either faltering or unsure or emotionally nervous. When you're dealing with the 5 Ds of real estate that drive the business, debt, divorce, diamonds, diapers, there's so many different emotions.
Say that again.
Debt, divorce, diamonds, and diapers. Those are the 5 Ds.
I thought you said death twice, which also makes sense.
That's what I thought.
But,
okay,
even happy the happy Ds like diamonds and diapers. There's emotions behind it that can be scary, and we need to sort of be the sounding board and the grounding sort of foundation for the clients who are just sort of navigating things for the first time. So the very long-winded answer to your question is that I think being able to sort of put on a show, essentially, when you have to, is probably one of the largest expectations that's very difficult to meet, because sometimes you yourself just need to crumble for a minute.
Well, I've said for many years that this industry, real estate agents, are akin to actors. We have to be on. Yeah. We have to put it on sometimes when we don't really want to, and the show must go on, as they say, right? Daniel, what expectations do you think pressure you the most, whether it's social media, other brokers, clients, family members? Where do you feel the most pressure coming from in your day-to-day world?
For me, it's probably social media, because I'm not on it. I am, but I'm not posting. I should be posting every day. I should be doing X, Y, and Z. I should be posting my wins. And I need to be that guy. Whereas, like, you see some agents where they just go up, oh, let me get a picture with this person. You have some people that are on TV shows that my business is double theirs. And they get all this other attention. And I don't promote it, but it attracts a different type of client. And I'm not that guy where I'm going up and look at me with this person, get a photo, post it. And because I'm not doing that, certain circles, I don't have that. They don't think I'm that successful or that I am doing all of this. So to me, that is a massive insecurity. And also the concept of dealing, my own underlying thing is, why are people going to listen to me? And that comes from generational stuff. But ultimately, when you look at it, it's the amount of real estate that I've sold, the price points that I've dealt with, the level of clientele that I've had. Where I come from, it's how deserving am I of working with that level of human? And it's also like they call me for advice, just for different things, not necessarily just real estate. It's in other ways. I've helped people get CEO jobs. Right. It's a different thing. But even with all of that, I still wonder, why is anybody going to listen to me? What is the value that I have by posting this thing on YouTube or Instagram?
I mean, social media is a funny thing. I mean, I go the periods of not posting anything real estate related, and then I go, and I'm over posting in real estate. And it really has nothing to do with how busy I am or not. It's just sometimes I think, is anybody really paying attention to real estate postings? I'm not quite sure. There are agents who say they get a lot of business from social media. Okay. I have a show running 12 years. I'm not going to sit here and say I get a lot of business because of my show, and I post my show on social media more than anything else. So it kind of runs the gamut, and I think it's really an individual thing. If people know you, maybe it works better. If people, I mean, my social media is, on fire all the time, but it's not always about real estate. So I'm not quite sure that that's the answer. Maybe it is for some people.
But it's also strategy. Like for you, if you adjusted your show, like right now you host a talk show. It doesn't say that you're doing transactions.
Right.
So not only do you not get clients because you're not talking about you doing transactions, but you also don't angle it. If you have a lot of real estate agents watching your show, you should then angle it to getting referrals from those real estate agents. But because they don't see you as doing transactions, you lose both of the opportunities. So
Correct.
It would also still make sense.
Yeah, no, and I do that, and I do think about that.
So if you're a real estate agent, give Vince some referrals.
I do think about that, and I do say, okay, so maybe it's time to start doing, whatever. But anyway, Matt, have you ever experienced a period when work affected your sleep, your relationships, personal relationships, overall well-being, and how then did you regain that balance when you realize, okay, I'm a little off the charts here, so I got to figure out I need to do something here?
Well, I think I experienced this probably on a weekly basis.
Okay.
I had multiple deals that were just on the verge of getting signed. I was not sleeping. You're thinking about the fact that even though you're not supposed to count your commission till the check is in the bank. But when you have a six-figure, it's basically you have six figures on the line.
Yeah.
A very healthy amount of money. It's more money than a lot of people make in a year. You're possibly signing in a week. Yeah. That's where I lose sleep. Or if I had a massive upset and something just imploded and I lost a big commission, that's where I usually sort of get down the worst. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. The sticking to a schedule, even though we don't have a schedule, is what keeps me somewhat grounded and as stable as I possibly can be, despite the fact that I, quote unquote, made and lost, let's say $250,000 in a matter of days. Like you think you have it and then all of a sudden it's gone. Or you were up for a massive listing and you were about to sign it and then they went with somebody else. That, obviously you didn't make the money, you didn't sell it yet, but in your head, you're already starting thinking like, what am I going to do with this? And they always have that, there's on social media, there's a real estate sort of fad for reels that is going around where the client calls and basically is like, oh, we're not going to be moving forward. And then it shows the screen of your phone and you have in your browser tabs like a Range Rover, delete, a new watch, delete, I'm looking at this apartment, delete, vacation, delete. So like,
not going to happen.
But again, it comes down to the schedule. I mean, whether or not I have an 8 a.m. appointment, I'm in the gym between 5 and 6. Whether or not I am, slated to do something that evening or I have calls or whatever, I always come home at a certain time, walk my dog, just sort of 20 minutes, decompress. That structure, as minimal as it is what sort of helps me sort of move away from whatever negative feelings I'm feeling at that time.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but on the other side of the break, we're going to come back and get Daniel's response right after this. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country, and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So, Daniel, let me ask you what I asked Matt before. Have you ever experienced, losing sleep, effects on personal relationships or overall well-being? And then how did you because of a deal or because of whatever, stress, was in a real estate week, and how did you kind of regain your composure and say, okay, I get it, but let's put it aside and let's kind of move on? and feel better, because when I feel better, I can get more done?
I hate to say it about myself, but I don't really have time or the ability to do that. I mean, I do have the ability, but
I mean, just trying to regain balance. You got to get balance back in order.
For my self-preservation in this business, I just keep going. I always keep thinking about on to the next. I don't celebrate wins. I don't even really understand or appreciate that wins happen.
I don't either.
I just keep going.
Yeah.
And I keep having more balls in the air. What's the next? What's the next? What's else is going on? How do I keep it going? And the more that you do that, everything just becomes a little fire that you need to put out consistently. There's always some fire. But I haven't had the ability to really stop and take stock of everything. And I tried to. I'm trying to add in these things of, wow, I really need to appreciate where have I been? So there have been times where I was really depressed. I think it was 2021 or maybe 2022, and I was depressed as hell, and it was COVID, and I still sold $50 million in 2020, 50 or 60. And I was told to call this one top agent who I really respect. He'd been in business for like 25 years. And he's like, really? You did that during 2020 when you worked for 6 months? And you should be really proud of yourself. Like, and he really talked me through different things. And I just didn't feel proud or excited about anything. I was just like still going because it never hit me. So last year I also had switched firms. Then I had 2 lawsuits going on. There was commission withheld, which then caused some other things that really started to get messed up. And unfortunately, until I found psilocybin and MDMA, I didn't have any regulation. And when you start looking at the clinical trials and different things and even what's happening, I don't think that anybody should necessarily pursue these things. But without we're using those in small doses in order to, and I cut out alcohol 3.5 years ago. Not that I had a problem, but when you work 7 days a week and my hours are 8 a.m. until midnight. So if you're out with clients and you're entertaining, it's not like you're at a club, but if you're there until 10:30 at night and you've had 3 drinks, and you went to this happy hour to go meet these people, and you're doing all of this, then you get up at 6 a.m., you've barely slept, you haven't had good sleep, and then every day kind of repeats itself. So I cut it out to start feeling like days had changed. I felt like every day was the same day for so long. And then I looked at my life, I was like, I'm at that time 38, I'm going to be 40 soon. Do I want to be living like this? And do I want my life to look the exact same when I'm at 40? And what would have to go? How do I start to appreciate that a sun has come up and then a sun has come down every day? So when I cut out alcohol, that started the next phase. I learned that my clientele changed in a different way because now I wasn't entertaining. It was now like business leaders and owners in a different way. And then last year, I think that if I hadn't found MDMA and psilocybin, I probably wouldn't have made the year. I'm not sure. It helped me in different times in order to find some physical and emotional regulation. I lost some relationships, other things that happened that I just had to accept and really start to figure some things out. But I think I'm still seeking that self-appreciation and regulation in different ways. And now I don't need those substances.
I think as real
much,
estate agents in general, most people are always going to be seeking something.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, because I think it's the pressure of what we go through and how it affects our mental health. Matt, we're going to talk about boundaries a little bit here. So, we all know, because we work 24/7, as I said before, people feel the need, or it's okay to call us or text us or whatever, any time of the day or night. How do you manage clients who expect immediate responses at all times?
I think it depends on, one, where you...
And do you ever shut your phone off?
No. I think the first 5 years in this business, I had zero. There were no boundaries. You called me at 10:30 on a Sunday. If I was awake, I was answering. I only really started to not only set boundaries with my clients, but also set sort of expectations where, if you broke certain rules, you were out. Once you're sort of in a groove, you have that luxury to be able to do that. I've only fired about a handful of clients in 10 plus years, but it's only when there's an extreme act of disrespect that happens. In the morning, unless you're house is burning down, if it's before 6 a.m., I'm not going to answer you. It's just, it is what it is. That's me time, right? 4:30 to 6:30.
I agree.
And then after 9 p.m., again, it depends on where you are in the transaction. If we're dealing with a high stakes best and final, I'm there. I'm up. I'm going to make time for you. If you are just casually sending me listings that you want me to review that you may or may not see on Sunday, but actually you might be 2 weeks until you're ready to go, like, no, we're not at that point where your need requires an immediate response. Those boundaries did take many years for me to sort of implement. I actually just changed my hours on my Google business page from 7 to 10, 7 a.m. 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Not that that really makes any difference at all, but it's just sort of to put it out there that
No, it does.
Set the expectation.
Call me at 9.
Right. So
I have the same thing. 8 o'clock, I'll start doing whatever, and by 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m., it's like, okay, unless a house is burning down, I don't really need to,
Right. But I have certain clients that I know for a fact I only have them from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m.
100%.
And if they reach out at that time, then they're gonna they're setting expectations with me as to when they are available, and I will meet those expectations.
Right. Anybody in finance or banking, whatever, you can't get to them, during the day, whatever. And I always say everybody is so busy, and busy doing what? Daniel, when stress is building, what are the early, warning signs that you start paying attention to? Because as we talked about before, stress builds in our bodies all day, every day, 7 days a week. When you feel it coming on, maybe more than not, what, when do you start paying attention? Or are you aware of it happening?
I am. I actually wear an Oura ring because of that, to really monitor how well did I sleep and what do I need to do, because sleep is very important, and it's not something that I actually do a lot of. So it's making sure that I actually have some chill there. If the Oura ring will let me know, any wearable, just to know if you got 5 hours of sleep, even if you were in bed for 7, if you got 5 hours of sleep and it was terrible and it's a full week, you have to take a day. Or not a day, you have to at least take a few hours. So take a nap. So I started adding naps. I've started adding other things, even if it's only for 30 to 45 minutes. Just having a little bit of that will let my body regulate. I often take a Friday night down, because Friday night is the one night where our clients are all having date night. Our clients are with their families.
The busiest time of the week. It's
Friday night.
So frustrating. And
Interesting.
It always, my wife thinks it's at this point entertaining, but it drives me up a wall. Friday between 4 and 8 p.m. Sunday between 4 and 8 p.m.
100%.
It is the busiest time of my week.
After 8
That's
p.m.
their downtime.
And it's the last, it's honestly, as a person, it is the last thing I want to do is to have my day go from 0 to 300 in the final 4 hours of those 2 days. It's just like you said, you couldn't figure out any other time to reach out to me. And it's not just one person, it's everybody.
Yeah.
I was with a family member just recently on a weekend, and I got a phone call, and I did what I had to do, and then I hung up the phone, and this person said to me, boy, you can go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah,
It's
we have
real
to.
estate.
Yeah. And I'm also a big fan of the nap, the disco nap in the middle of the day.
I call it resting my eyes. Even if you close your eyes 15 minutes
45
and you
minutes.
whatever.
Yeah.
But even 15 minutes, it's like, okay, great. I can reset. 45 minutes is the ideal, right? You can kind of reset, because I toss and turn some nights depending on what's happening, and it is what it is. We put an offer in yesterday on something. This morning, while I was sitting in the green room waiting to come on set, we got a thank you, but no thank you. Okay. So I got to tell my client after the show, and that's going to be another whole harangue. But isn't that what we go through? And we'll put another offer in, and we'll see what we got to do. Who are the people in your life, Matt, that help keep you grounded, and why are those relationships important, given the industry that we work in, the job that we have to do, the 24/7 that we're involved in every day, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bad? Who are the people in your life that can keep you grounded when you need it?
Well, number one is obviously my wife.
Right.
If I'm years ago when I was not managing my stress well, it would obviously impact our relationship.
Sure.
I think now that I'm more communicative, where if I wake up and my chest is already tight and I haven't even done anything
We all
that
know that
day,
feeling.
you know, I let her know, like, today is going to be a little rough, just bear with me. And, you know, the first 3 to 5 years I was in this business, we were kind of navigating it together because I had no idea what I was doing. But I think we've established sort of a support system for each other. I think she really holds it down with me the most out of anybody. But even though I am a solo agent, I don't have a team, I kind of do have a team of support system because I go to therapy on a weekly basis. I have a holistic medical team because I'm recently gotten into peptides over the last 6 months, which make a huge difference, by the way, depending on what you take. I have a flexologist that basically hears me bitch for 25 minutes while he's contorting my body and making sure that, you know, I'm not dealing with stress or, you know, tight muscles, that kind of thing. I have a cosmetic dermatologist who listens, you know, when I'm getting Botox and fillers. I have those sort of supporting cast members. Obviously, wife at the top, parents right below that. But it's the people that sort of keep me propped up and healthy and constantly improving that really are the main support systems that allow me to work 7 days a week.
What I have found is, you know, the support people in our lives are not necessarily in real estate or at all, and they kind of get it once they're around us long enough. Daniel, who in your life is, you know, where would you go for that kind of support and know that whoever this person is or people are, they're going to help ground me. They're going to help me feel better, a little less stressed, and I can, you know, do whatever.
I've always had to work on that. I think in my life, I've actually only really had one person. Everybody plays like a little support role here and there. I'll go dancing with this group, which really helps. I'll go do this other thing, which also really helps. But they also don't really get it. I think after my first year in the business, I ended up hiring a life and business coach. And her name is Vivace Max Victor, and I've worked with her every week ever since. And that's the 1 hour, and I pay a lot of money for it, but that is the 1 hour per week where I really get to sit with myself. I get to sit in one place. I get to journal. I get to take stock in what's going on. What were my wins for the week? What were my losses?
Paying attention to you.
How can I reframe them?
Yep.
And somebody that really understands more me and what I've been through and the arc, and also understands our profession and the demands that happen with us. But outside of that, it's nobody else really understands. Right. Nobody can see it. We can't tell them certain things, because it's also friends that are also clients that are also these other. There's you don't have anybody really to go to.
It's funny you say that
way.
Because the first time that I actually showed an apartment with you when I was new in the business, I don't even know if you remember. It was on like 77th or 78th in Columbus. It was a mega apartment. It was probably pre-COVID, 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
101 West 78th.
Yes. Actually, yeah. And I remember because this was one of my first major clients that I was working with at the time. I was breaking into a new price point, and we were like making small talk while the buyers were looking at the apartment. And I'll never forget, you looked at me and you said, "Do yourself a favor, get a coach." And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, like, what is he talking about? Like, why do I need a coach? Because I didn't know, you know, I was still figuring everything out. But that was the one thing that you said to me that stuck with me for years. I still haven't gotten one, unfortunately. I'd like to think I have a good support team, but no coach for me.
I mean, I need to start getting that support team.
Well, my next question was going to be, so, you know, how do we, because people say to me all the time, how can you really possibly manage a personal relationship when everything that surrounds us can be emotional and cuckoo and crazy and demanding and whatever? How can we maintain personal relationships? Are we able to focus on these people, that person, whatever, meaningfully and correctly, or is it just part of what we think we need to do every day because that's what everybody else does?
I think part of one thing that you have to sort of really just keep reminding yourself is that as morbid as it sounds, you are never going to be enough to everybody,
No,
right?
of
You
course
are
not.
always going to fall short of somebody else's
100%.
expectations. And I think, being able to just say you gave it your all in every sense of the word to everybody, it sounds impossible, but as long as you tried your best, I think that's ultimately what's going to help you sleep at night. I also highly recommend, and I always thought my father was crazy for doing it growing up, but talking to yourself. It really does work. It works really, really well.
With clients about that yesterday.
I talk to myself all the time, and I'm not just muttering, on the street. And now that people have earbuds, like it's not as crazy. But like when I'm in my apartment, I'm constantly having my inner monologue has come external, and it actually really helps talking yourself out of a stressful situation, letting yourself know that everything is going to be fine. It's not the end of the world. It sounds nuts, but I've actually started doing it more in the last 6 months, and it really has made a difference, at least to sort of manage the really extreme highs and lows.
Given all we've talked about, okay, final question. Given all we've talked about, the stress of the business, the demands of the business, our emotional roller coaster, if you want to call it that, if you stripped all of that away, or if you were in a different profession, what do you think people would see of you? Who would they think you were based on not being in this business where people know you and love you, but would you be different if you were doing something else? I mean, I think you alluded to it a little earlier, where sometimes you think about quitting and doing something else, but what type of person would you be if you were not in this very stressful, very difficult business?
I don't really know. It is, I don't
either.
I don't know anything
Honestly.
else. I've been hustling since I was 10. So in that concept of figuring out who would I be, I'm a mix of a creative, so I'd want to create things. I always loved telling stories. I'd write, I would act, and I'd want to build something. So could I be a banker? Could I be a trader? Could I be somebody who sits in an office and then just goes to happy hour? And could I do these other things? And I'm not really sure whether as a human I could also survive that without relying on other people to give me a bonus or to control my promotion and what my outlook is. I don't know if I'd be more mentally healthy at that point. I might have better romantic relationships, which is something else that I think a lot of real estate agents struggle with, but also bankers struggle with that too.
Sure.
Whereas they might have time, but they also don't understand their own emotions. Whereas we understand emotions, we don't have the time.
We don't have the time to take it in and make, yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what kind of human I would be. If it were, I might make more. I think if I quit this and I started something else, I'd probably make more money. We're dramatically underpaid.
Yeah, but you do well.
I do very well
By comparison to other agents. 1 minute left. Matt, what do you think?
Such a hard question to answer.
Right.
I mean,
Very hard.
I need to be stimulated constantly. So even though I would love a day off, I wouldn't know what to do with myself because I can't even sit through a movie. I always have to be doing something or multiple things at once. So the job suits me. Yeah. And, in my former career, working on a trading desk, I was an octopus 14 hours a day. I was, running reports, doing projects, answering requests, you name it. And it was mostly it was basically similar hours. I had maybe one day off. But I think no matter what I'm doing, I'm also a little more creative, which is why finance just didn't really do it for me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
This allows me to, really help people, which I think is the one thing most people don't realize we're doing at the end of the day is, when you walk away from a transaction, everyone's happy. They're so thankful that you shepherded them through the process and came out relatively unscathed for the most part. Any other profession that would allow me to sort of get that warm, fuzzy feeling at the end of a task is probably for me. But it needs to be something where I'm constantly doing something. I can't just do my morning reports and then sit back and have a latte. That's not the life for me. Life on a beach sounds great to most, but I would be bored out of my mind.
No, not for me. And as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't have it any other way. I've done a lot of other things, worked in corporate America, structure. No, I love what I do. I love my profession, as emotionally draining as it can be and stressful sometimes. It just is what it is. With that, we'll be right back with my final thoughts right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, I am back with my final thoughts. As we wrap up today's conversation, one thing becomes clear. Success in real estate isn't measured solely by transactions, commissions, or market share. It's also measured by the ability to sustain your career, protect your well-being, and maintaining the relationships and values that matter most to you. New York City real estate is one of the most competitive and demanding industries in our world. It can challenge your confidence, test your patience, and blur the lines between your personal and professional life. But if agents who build lasting careers aren't just the ones who work the hardest, they're the ones who work the smartest and learn how to adapt, recharge, and stay grounded through the highs and the lows. The truth is, every successful professional has struggles that don't appear on social media, struggles that never made it into a press release, and moments of doubt that happen behind closed doors. The more openly we talk about those realities, the healthier and stronger our industry becomes. Thank you for joining us for this very important conversation today. And remember, taking care of yourself isn't separate from your success, it's part of it. And that is it for this episode of Talking New York Real Estate. I ask everyone to take a moment to really look inward and ask themselves, who are you at your core? What is your why, the reason you get up in the morning, and the driving force behind the choices you make? What beliefs guide you, and where do they come from? Your family, your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs. Understanding these pieces of yourself shapes how you move through the world. And once you know them, the challenge is to show up intentionally and be memorable every single day, not through perfection or performance, but by living with authenticity, purpose, clarity, and the courage to let people see and feel the real you. And remember, your reputation arrives before you do every day. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Eleanor Roosevelt said, if life were predictable, it would cease to be life and be without flavor. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.